It's
every
always at
night?
7:20.
No, usually what
I went
happens is,
overtime today.
but that's not really. Usually what happens is at 7:20, I see who's here. And if I see people are missing, like you checked in a little bit after 7:20, and I was just watching until everybody checked in, and that's when that's when I looked for a Pesach to wait for a kiva to get to the end of a paragraph. So usually what I do is
that was only because
Spinoza got mixed in then. Then Spinoza got mixed in. But the intent was to wait for everyone to come. And as soon as everyone's here, then I jump in and tell Akiva we should start.
Chaim Tzir, are you trying to ask how do you know when to show up to avoid the Chassidus? Is that what you're asking?
Akiva, Avigdor, I don't want you to read between the lines.
Zok the Heilige Gemara. So we last discussed we had Levi and Rabbi Bar Chana were driving on their donkeys, and Levi's donkey pushed ahead of Rabbi Bar Chana's donkey. And Rabbi Bar Chana was a little bit upset because it was not Makovadik that Levi's donkey should push in front of him. And Levi saw that Rabbi Bar Chana was upset, so Levi wanted to tell him a good word to calm him down. Like it reminds me of a story where Chaim Tzvi knows this story, where there was a bunch of Rabbanim sitting around at a Mayetzes Gedolah a Torah meeting, or a Mayetzes Gedolah type of meeting, because it was not an Agudah meeting, and there were older Rabbanim there, such as the Satmar Rebbe Zatzal, the Baron Kotler, Yaakov Kamenetsky, and then there was the second generation Rabbanim that were around, who are today the Gedolah Rosh Hashiva, but then they were like the younger light. And someone brought into the meeting a tray with a whole bunch of glasses of water. So this young Rav was thirsty, so he saw a glass, he took it quickly off the shelf to drink, off the tray to drink. And then he looked around and he realized it was not appropriate for him to grab a glass of water before the Gedolah Shiva, before the older Rabbanim took. So he wanted to make like a stupid joke to diffuse the situation. So he said, Ein mayim elateira. So without skipping a beat, the Satmar Rebbe said, Oy, Yisuk Tzayigit. Azoivim in Zukt in the Agudah, V'usa Torah, V'shu Salamaya. So here too, Levi felt a little bit uncomfortable that Rabbi Bar Chana was upset, so he figured I'll tell him a word and I'll diffuse the situation. So
why can he blame it on the Chamor?
That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. Amrle, he said, this stupid ass. But it did. Literally, right? So Amrle Chamor, Shasok of Royim, Kigoyin Zeh. So it's exactly what he did. If you have a Chamor that's a bad Chamor, it doesn't do things right, like my Chamor that pushed in front of you without my will. So it's exactly what he did. So we've been discussing animals that we know for sure if it's wearing its proper harness, that's for sure not a masoi. We had a shaila yesterday. If you have an overkill harness, is that a masoi? And that was a machlokes Chananya and the Rabbanim. So he asked him a similar shaila. Chamor shasok of royim kigoyin zeh ma lotus b'prumbi b'Shabbos. Can we let it go out with a bit on Shabbos? So there's the regular leather strap harness that goes around a horse. If you search on Google holster, you see it. We've seen them. And then there's a metal piece that goes in the horse's mouth. It has a loop on either side. There's a bar in the middle. And that also is connected to the strap. So that makes a more secure connection. So the question is, normally a chamar just needs a regular harness. But this chamar that's a little bad, could I allow to use a prumbia, even though that might be a little overkill? Omer so Rabbi Bar Chana said, Halchi Omer Avoch Mishmei Shmuel. Your father said in the name of Shmuel, Halacha Kechananya, and like we learned yesterday, that overkill, even if you have a harness that's stronger and bigger than what you would normally use for this animal, it's not considered a masoi, it's considered a harness, and that is it's called a shmira, and the animal's allowed to go out. Tana Devei Menashe. And the rest of this Amud is just going to chew over and over again this same Shiloh. So now we have sort of a quote from Shmuel, who paskins that an oversized harness is mutter. Tana Devei Menashe. Eiz shechokak lebein karnal. A goat. Now a goat cannot wear a regular harness. And Rashi is the reason why a goat cannot wear a regular harness is because a goat has a slim head and it moves around, and it's inevitable that the harness is going to slip off of the goat's head, in Rosh Hashanah possibly, and then the owner will pick it up and walk with it daladamas. Because of that, an A's cannot go out with a harness. However, what they used to do if they needed to put a harness on a goat is they would drill a hole in its two horns and they would run the harness through the horns. Now that harness will not fall off. So Aisha Chokak law, Ben Karnel, then Yotze After, it's allowed to go out with a standard harness the Shabbos because we don't have any longer a need to worry that it might fall off. Boyab Yosef, Tachav la Bezikna. We know a billy goat has a beard. So what if you tied a loop out of the beard and you wrap the ritzua through that? Can you also assume that the harness won't fall off? Ma, what would the halacha be? Even the mantach law, koyev law, if it starts to pull away and pull out of the harness, it's going to hurt because it's going to yank on this beard. So therefore it won't shake off because the goat's not going to move its head around because of the pain pulling on its beard. It might be loose. Even the hair could loosen, the knot and the hair could loosen. The nuffle and it would fall. Thank you. So the Gemara is a what would be if you tie the harness to the beard of a goat? Now we have a new shayla. They would sometimes put a ritzua, a strap, between the horns of a cow. And the Brasha says a cow may not go out with a strap that's between its head, because that's not the shmur. Amar Rabbi Yirmi Baba, Pligaba Rav Shmuel, Pligaba Rav Shmuel. There's a machlokes about this ritzua between Rav and Shmuel. Chad Amar Bein Lenoi Bein L'Shamar Aser. Sai if the strap is only there as an adornment, and Sai if the strap is there because it's connected to the harness and it's going to protect the cow, it's going to be Aser. Now cows normally don't need any type of harness. They don't run away. So therefore, if it's for a shmira, it would be overkill. The Chad Amar and one of these two Amrim say Lenoi Aser, as an adornment it's Aser, or L'Shamar Mutter, even though it's overkill would be mutter. So now you have a machlokes Rav and Shmuel if overkill on the harness is mutter. Now we need to also understand, we know animals sometimes wear adornments, decoration, and those decorations are also bottled to the animal, and they're not considered a masui. So why over here are we saying that if there's a strap on the head of a cow, it's considered l'noi and it's osir? The answer is, up to Rashba, is that this strap wasn't a normal way to adorn a parah. Since it's not the normal way to adorn a parah, such an adornment is going to be osir. But if it's used to, if the normal way is to put a certain type of fancy, nice thing or strap or decoration on the cow, that would not be a masli. In fact, that would be mutter. But I'll call upon we have a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. One holds overkill is osir, like the Rabbanan of Chananya, and one holds overkill is mutter, like Chananya. The question is, we don't know who says what. No, we have a hint. We have a hint because earlier on the third line of the Amud we just learned, so right off the bat, we can guess who the Gemara is going to settle on as who the halacha is like. Amar b'Yosef testayim the Shmuel who the Amar lenoi osir l'shamar mutter. I'm going to bring a raya that Shmuel holds that l'shmira is mutter and overkill is mutter, like Chananya. Amar Rav Huna bar Chia Amar Shmuel halacha Chananya, because we said over that Rav Huna bar Chia said in the name of Shmuel that halacha is like Chananya, which is similar to what we quoted earlier. And Chananya is the one who holds that overkill is mutter. Amar le'bai adirabah tistayim the Shmuel who the Amar bein l'noi bein l'shamar osir. I'll bring you a raya that Shmuel holds that overkill is osir. What are they going to do with the quote that we quoted over here, Mishmei to Shmuel? We'll get there in a minute. But here we have a right that Shmuel might hold that also. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Machlifin lefnei Rebbe shel zu b'zu mahu. So if you remember, we learned the Shaila on the Aleph of a base. We learned it yesterday, and the question was: can you use overkill? Can you put a bigger harness, the harness that you would normally use for a wilder animal, for a camel that's wild? Can you use that on a regular camel? That was the Gemara Shaila, where the Gemara brought the machlokes Chananya, they're abundant. And what happened there was, we had this as well. Shmuel Rabbi Yossi brought a raya from the following halacha: Kach Omer Abba, Dalet behemoth yoyches be'afser. 4 behemoths can go out with an afser. Hasus, the horse, Haper, the mule, the Agomal, and the camel, the Chamor and the Chamor. So Lav Lamuti Gomel Bechetem. So the Gemara there also brought the same raya. The Gemara slug up the raya, but the Gemara brought a raya from here that a Gomel is only allowed to go out with an after, as listed in the list of the 4 animals, what they go out with. But a Gomel would not be able to go out with the steel ring, which is the heavier ring. So you have a raya that Shmuel holds, because Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Shmuel was there. Shmuel heard them. Shmuel asked the Shaila, and Shmuel asked the Shaila, or he said over the Shaila in front of Rabbi, and thank you, Rabbi. And when Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, paskined on it, he seemed to agree. So you have a raya from here that Shmuel seems to hold that you're not allowed to do overkill. No, the problem is, even if you do have a raya from here that overkill is usher, we quoted the first earlier, the Shmei Shmuel, that the halacha is like Chananya. So the Rashba speaks out that Rabbi Yehuda was very, very reliable. Any psak, any testimony he said was very reliable. So if you have conflicting testimonies as to what Shmuel said, it would be logical to follow that of Rabbi Yehuda, and that's the Rabbi Yehuda of Shmuel who brought down this in. Zok Gemara, Samei ha mekami ha. Just erase this. We want to say that Shmuel holds its mutter, so erase this. Say this is a mistake. Maybe samiha mekamiha. Maybe say that it's aser. Zok Gemara, Rabchi by Ashi Amarav, bein lenoi, bein l'shamar aser. Rabchi by Avin Amar Shmuel lenoi aser l'shamar mutter. Since we have Rabchi by Ashi and Rabchi by Avin saying clear testimony that according to Shmuel, for a shmir it's mutter, meaning overkill is mutter, therefore we would rather ignore the last raya than ignore the quote earlier, even though it was from Yehuda, from Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if you remember yesterday, the Gemara said this wasn't the raya anyway, because the Gemara said, Loi, lamute, shar animals for an afser. So anyway, the Gemara slugged up this raya. Okay, talk to Hela Gemara. So now basically what we have is the same shal that we've been discussing, is overkill. A harness that's overkill, is that considered a masi or not? Rav seems to hold with Chomer that it's considered a masi and it's osher, and Shmuel seems to hold with Chananya that it's not considered a masi, it's considered a shmira, and it's going to be mutter.
Yossi.
Yes.
I'm disturbed about the whole concept. So the cow doesn't care. I don't know if it cares or not, but it's pretty it seems it's oblivious to what he's carrying in or out, right? Dalet Amas Bershusarab, right? The deraisa is that it's got to be some kind of a productive act. Are these derabbanans or deraisas that he would be over?
I think these are deraisas, but we learned from Tosfos that it's not going to be a chi of course, because it's going to be a iser asay, because it's laman yanuach shoichar b'chamirecha. There's an asay, there's a mitzvah asay that you're sure and you're chavor that your animals have to keep Shabbos. So it's not a deraisa like a chi of chatas, but it is a mitzvah asay deraisa.
Well, it can't do any other malachas. A behema, unless you push it to plow or to do other things. So the idea of Eitzah, it would be for the behema, it can't even think. Behema doesn't think.
That's correct. It's correct. I guess the mitzvah, the mitzvah of making your animal not to malacha probably means even if your malacha was not, even if the behema was not machavan, because you're right, the behema doesn't have kavanah.
Right. So it has to be the owner's kavanah, right? But if he doesn't care, if it doesn't matter, why are you saying maybe no kavanah is needed at all? In order to fulfill the deraisa, the love of the deraisa?
In order to be over dasei, even if there was no kavanah at all, a person would be over dasei if his animal carries something.
According to the person that according to the Mandi Amr holds, you need kavana.
That's for a malacha that a person's doing. When the Torah is talking to a person and tells you not to do something, Torah's only telling you not to do it with kavanah. But when the Torah is talking to animals, maybe there's a different set of rules.
And maybe there aren't different set of rules. We don't know, do we?
Well, it seems from the Gemara that there's no kavanah required, because otherwise it would very much complicate it based on the shaila that you're asking.
Okay.
It's not just I knew before you asked your question that kavanah is not. From your question, it must be that you need kavanah.
But we're working with a set of rules, and one of them is davar she'eino mischaven, according to one shita, is mutter, right? So there's no kavana over here. If the cow doesn't care and the person doesn't care because it's not producing a productive act, why should this be usher in the first place?
So from your kasha, we see in fact that you don't need kavana. So now your question is, why should it be usher, even though there's no kavana? Is because the Torah says your animal's not allowed to do malachos. It says Laman Yiduch. We have a
If it's productive, I understand that to mean it's not allowed to do a productive act. Okay.
Laman Yiduch means your animal should rest.
Should
Rest
rest.
means it shouldn't do any act.
Right. So, but it's not a burden for an animal if he's got something between his horns, or if he's got something, he's not even aware that he's got something on him.
Well, we know that Haitzah is considered a malacha grua, and one of the reasons is you're allowed to schlep a 5,000 pound weight across your dining room, but you're not allowed to even carry a needle out from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So that actually the malacha of Haitzah is one that doesn't necessarily require tircha at all, even for a human.
But it requires a productive act, doesn't it?
Well, if you inadvertently have something in your pocket and you carry it from inside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, what productivity is there there?
Yosy, is there a parallel between this case and the case we had before of a woman who wears jewelry out? She can't wear the jewelry out unless the jewelry has another productive use.
The Gemara we learned said that a woman cannot even wear jewelry in Rosh Hashanah because we're afraid she'll walk out with it into Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
Her friend will admire it. She'll take it off. She'll show it to her friend, and then she'll walk with it in her hand. So the Gemara said, once we don't allow women to wear jewelry on Shabbos, even Rosh Hashanah, jewelry is muksa. So the Gemara said, since jewelry can be used for something else, then jewelry won't be muksa. And Chaim Tzvi asked, what do you mean jewelry can be used for something else? What else could you use it for?
Right.
But that was a shaila of muksa. But the shaila of Haitzah would be even by mistake. So I think David asked about Kasha, you need kavanah. But we did learn when it comes to Haitzah, Meshus L'Shos, and Dalaramis Meshus Rabim, that's one of the reasons why Tosfos said it's a malacha grua. One of the reasons why it's a malacha grua is because it's not logical that if I take some heavy thing from one side of the room to the other side of the room, it's mutter, and if I take a feather from inside to outside, which seemingly is nothing, there's still a chiyuv. But even so, it still has to be a malachas machshavos. If you forgot something in your pocket and carried it out, I don't know if that would be considered a malachas machshavos. It's definitely a davar. I don't know if it's a davar mechaber. I'm not sure, but there's definitely by behavior you wouldn't need kavanah because of what David asked. Okay, so let's see what the Gemara says weiter. So we have this machalekes, and the Gemara asks a kasha from paraduma. And we all know a paraduma, it says asher loy ola aleha oil. A paraduma is only kosher if it was never used for work. Now, a harness, if it's going to be considered for the shmir of the animal, that's not called carrying, it's not called a masoi, it's not called carrying a load. But if it's not a masoi, then it would be carrying a load. So the Gemara draws a parallel. Something that would be mutter on Shabbos, as far as an animal wearing a harness, would not render a paraduma apostle. But something that would be a masay on Shabbos would render the paraduma to be apostle. So Mesei kosher by leba Mesei. If the bailam of the paraduma put a harness on it, share it's still kosher. If you hold that a cow, any harness on a cow, being that cows don't require being tied up, they're very timid, they're very obeying, they're subservient. if you hold it to Masui, then Asher Loy Allah oil, then why does the Bride say, it should be possible? So you should have a riot from here, for the fact that it's kosher, that it's not a malach, that it wouldn't be considered carried. Normally, putting a harness on a parah is a masri, and in fact, it would pasal a paraduma, and it would be usher on Shabbos. But the case in the Brisa was he was taking this paraduma from one city to another city. When you're driving long distance, even cows are going to be tied up. And I believe Rashi says an interesting thing. Ustam para poina l'makam irbitchala. A cow will always want to go to its home. It's always going to want to turn back to go to its house. And in order to get it to go far away from its house, you actually have to pull it. And therefore, tying a cow with a harness when you're moving it intercity, Rav Omar, shiny part of the Meyakar. There's a famous saying in the trades that an expensive tool has legs, because if you leave it on the job site, it disappears on its own. So a paradum, which is expensive, has to be tied up because anybody might want to steal it. Ravina Maredis, it happens to be a wildish para, and that's why anywhere, even not a paradum, any animal that's a Maredis requires a harness. But normally, a para wouldn't need a harness. It's possible that normally, if you left a harness on a para, that would be considered a masui, and it would be awesome. And that's the end of the sugya. So at the end of the day, we have a machlokes Hananya and the Rabbanan. We have machlokes Rav and Shmuel seems to pass in the kula like Hananya that overkill in a harness is not considered a masui; it's considered a shmira, and that's not going to be a problem in Shabbos. Now we discuss hasus b'sher. Sher was a typical harness, and the way he types that harness, I'm going to use the exact English types that he used. Sher, a collar. So I guess a collar is a leather strap that wraps around the neck that you can connect to a leash. So it's like a leash. So what does it say about a sus with a leash and other animals? It says yoichin b'shir. They're allowed to go out into from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah with this leash, vinim shochin b'shir, and you can also schlep them with the shear. So it sounds like there's two separate halachas over here, and the Gemara is going to drill down to understand what they are. My yoichin and my shochin. The Mishnah said yoichin b'shir, and they can be schlepped with the shear. What does that mean? Amar Afuna, it's two things. Or yoichin kruchin, or nim shochin. Either they can go out with the shear, meaning even if the leash is not extended and you're not holding it, you just have the leash wrapped around the neck of the animal, so no one's pulling it on the leash. It just has a leash on it. That would be mutter. Or someone can actually hold the leash and pull the animal. Both those things would be mutter. Shmuel Amar yoytzin nimshochin ve'in yoytzin krucha. You're allowed to go out. So when the Mishnah says that it's yoytzin. What's the lashon Mishnah? The Mishnah says when it says yoytzin b'shir v'nimshochin b'shir, it's one thing. You're allowed to go out with a leash if you're pulling it by its leash. But if you just wrap the leash around the animal's neck and you're not using it, that would be a maser. So Shmuel Omer yotzin nimshochin ve'ein yotzin kruchin. The animal's not allowed to walk out with a leash if it's not being pulled by that leash. That would be considered a maser. But Masnisa Tana, we learned in that brayso, yotzin kruchin limoshech. You're allowed to go out with the leash wrapped around the neck if you could still use it to guide the animal. How is that? So Rashi, kruchin limoshech is kruchin berevach. It's not tied tightly around the neck. It's tied loosely. It's wrapped loosely around the neck of the animal. You can get your hand easily in between the straps that are wrapped around the animal's neck and the neck. You can easily get your fingers there to grab the whole wrapped up leash and to pull the animal. Or you could loosen up a little bit the rope. Or you could it'll be loose a little bit, and if it starts to run away, you quickly grab it and pull it back. So Zok to Gemara. So the question is, Tosha speaks out. So so who is this consistent with? This seems to be inconsistent with Rav Huna, because Shmuel says Yochim Shachin then Yochim Kruchin. So what did Shmuel meant? You can't go with it wrapped around the neck tight, but if it's wrapped around the neck loose, you're allowed to. According to Rav Huna, who holds you're allowed to, it's even if it's wrapped around the neck tight, it's mutter. What's pshat in the Mishnah? Yochim Kruchin li Moshech. According to Rav Huna, you shouldn't need that. According to Rav Huna, even if it's tied around and you can't use it as a leash, you can't grab it, even then it should be mutter. So Tosfos asked that kasha. Tosfos says Rav Huna Mataritz Kruchem li Moshech means she is halal bein afshel atzaber shu noyach li Moshech k'sheyirtze. So it's possible that I have to take a step back. It's going to be a little bit schwer how Rav Huna is going to learn this price. I don't understand Tosfos, because according to Rav Huna, according to we're learning Rav Huna, that kruchen means even if it's not able to be used as a leash, it will still be mutter. Yet the Brisa seems to say that only if it's loose enough that you could grab it would it be mutter, and even Shmuel would hold it would be mutter, but if it's tight, it wouldn't be mutter. So I'm not sure what Pshat and Tosfos is. If anybody looks at Tosfos, the Gemara wants to know, or Tosfos wants to know, how does Rav Huna understand this Brisa? Rav Huna Mataritz Kruchem li Moshech sheish halal ben afser latzaver to noich li Moshech k'sheyirtze. So maybe what Tosfos is saying is there that Mishnah holds that it's even easier. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how Rav Huna will stand for this price. Zok the Gemara. Amar Yosef, Chazina lahu li gula dvei Rav Huna. I saw the calves that were in Rav Huna's house. Yoichin b'apsarein kruchem b'Shabbos. I saw that he let them go outside on Shabbos, even though they had their leashes wrapped around them. Yosy Abdimi, when Abdimi came, Amar Rab Chanina, he said in the name of Rab Chanina, Muloi shel beis Rebbe, the mules that were in the home of Rebbe, Yoitzos b'apsarei b'Shabbos. They would also go out with their harnesses on Shabbos. Iboilu, he didn't say what the situation was with these mules. Rav Huna's case, the calves of Rav Huna, clearly, it says it was mutter even if it was kruchen, like Rav Huna. But by Rebbe's house, the edus was that the mules just went out with harnesses, but it wasn't clear were these harnesses being used to pull the mules, or were they just wrapped around the necks of the animal. Again, we're going back to a Gemara we learned before. The mules of Rebbe, so it says kruchen. So you see clearly that in the house of Rebbe, the mules were allowed to go out with harnesses, even though people weren't pulling them with the harnesses. Those harnesses or those leashes were just wrapped around the neck of them, which again supports Rav Huna. Amrua Rabbanon Kamei Ravasi. So the Rabbanon said this over in front of Ravasi. Hadar Shmuel by Yehuda Lo Tzricha. We don't need this last thing that we just quoted from Shmuel by Yehuda that tells us that they can go out with an afsar and kruchen. Why is that? Because midur Abdimi nafka. We would already know it's from Abdimi. What did Abdimi say? Abdimi just said, because Abdimi Omer Chanina, it doesn't say kruchen, but we would have known, we could have figured out that it meant kruchen even without Reb Shmuel bar Yehuda clarifying it. How would we have known? He doesn't say anything. He just says Yochim b'Afsarein. Zok the Gemara, Ditzol Kedaitach, Abdimi Nimshachem Ka'amar. If you would have thought, if you want to say that when Abdimi said this edus about Rav, he just meant to say that you could pull the animal with the leash and you can't just wrap it around the neck of the animal. If that's what he meant, I wouldn't have ever needed that testimony of Abdimi, because of Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel after. I already know from Yehuda Shmuel, which we quoted earlier, that an animal is allowed to go. The shaila is a cow going out or a mule going out with a leash that's a little overkill. We already know that a little overkill is allowed. So really the shaila of that shaila was overkill. So you see clearly that Gomel is allowed to go with an afser. You see a Gomel is allowed to go with an afser. Amar Lahu Rabasi, You still need Rab Dimi's halacha about overkill, and you can't say it's extra. And from there, you would know that Rab Dimi must have meant that the leash is allowed, even if it's just wrapped around the animal's neck. If you only have the story of Rabbi Yehuda quoting Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yosy of Kacham Abba, Havamida Amar Lefanav, I would have thought that maybe Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yosy told this to Shmuel that the animals are allowed to go with an officer, but Veloy Kibbel B'nei. But how do I know that Shmuel accepted that as a psak? We just have a story of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yosy presenting information to Shmuel. Nowhere does it say that Shmuel agreed. Kamash Reb Dimi. That's Reb Dimi had to tell us a story that the mules of Reish Rebbe went out with their harnesses, and that proves that he agrees to Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. But be'ivdu Reb Dimi havini mishochem. So therefore, from Reb Dimi, I would only know that the leashes were on these animals because people were guiding the animals with the leashes. But I wouldn't know from Reb Dimi that the leashes are allowed even if they're just wrapped around the animals and they're not being used as leashes. That's why we needed the story with Reb Shmuel Bar Yehuda, who said beferish that the mules of Beis Rebbe, Yoiches B'Afseren Kruchen b'Shabbos, that specifically say that it's Kruchen. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Umazin alayit v'toivlon b'mkoyim. So now we're talking about these rings that were around the necks of the animals, and we learned the halacha that if they happen to become tamei meis, you don't have to take the rings off the animals to make the azah of the paraduma. You could spritz them while they're on the necks of the animal, and the same thing is with toivel b'mkoyim. If they have to be toiveled, you don't have to take them off. You could just march these animals into a mikveh, and everything on them will become tumah. Now, in order for you to need to be matarid, it must have become tumah. These rings that are wrapped around the animal's neck, are you saying that they're makabel tumah? Fatnan, we learned tabas odom tmeya, a ring that a human wears, that's something that could become tumah. And Rashi tells us, how do you know that? Because the tachshutu is considered an adornment, a piece of jewelry, umi midyan lialfina, and we learned by the Milchama with Midyan, we had to be matar all of the booty that we got from the Midyanim. The monaben, and one of the items listed in that parsha, when it talks about what we had to be matar, was tachshitin, such as its oda, the tzomid. These were bracelets and rings. V'akulu koi tischato ata mishvicham. In Bamidbar, when it says tischato, you have to be matar all these things. It's also going on the jewelry. So we know jewelry for humans becomes tamei, and you have to be matar it, either with tefillah, depending on the tumah, or if it's tumas meis, v'hazah. But v'tabas behemu v'kelim v'sharkol tavois. But any rings that you have on either a behema, or on kalim, rings that are on kalim, or any other rings that are not made for humans, they're not makabel tumah. So you have this Mishnah telling us that you could be matarit. Why is it relevant that I could be matar a ring? The ring could never have become tumah in the first place. It was not makabel tumah. All of these rings were once upon a time for humans. So the ring that we're talking about, that you could be matar, how did it become tumah? Because first there was a ring for a person, and then he repurposed it, and he used it as part of the harness of an animal. But since it's tamei already, and Rashi says, while it was a ring for a person who became tamei, after it became tamei, and now I have to be matarit because it still retains its original tumah from when it was servicing a human. Rabbi Yosef Amar, even if it was always made lechatchila to service a behema, this is called a tachshit for a person. You know why? Because what's the purpose of the ring? The ring is so it facilitates it and makes it that I could slap the animal with it. That's called mishamish as adam, and such a ring actually will be tamei, just like a ring of a person. Miloi Tanya, did we not find a brayso that actually says this? Makal shobehema shomatkes. If you have a stick of a behema, Rashi says, "Roiden boy as a gomel." It's a stick with which you prod the gomel. If it has a ring at the end of it, mekabel tuma. No, if the whole makal is metal, it's mekabel tuma. Otherwise, it's psuta kliyates. Matam. Why is it that it's called? Why is it mekabel tuma? Hoil v'adam roida bahem. It's because it's a tool that's used by a person. A tool that's used by a person is mekabel tuma. So too a ring, even though it's part of the harness of an animal, since it's used by the person to control the animal, it's mekabel tuma. Hachanami hoil v'adam moshach bahem. That's why you need to hire. The toivlim b'm koiman. Again, you don't have to take them off the toivl. You can just have the animal go into the mikveh with these rings, and they'll become tar. Correct the Gemara. Is there not a chatzitza? Because Rashi says shetabas hakavua b'shir kavuba b'chayzik. When you have a ring that's in the harness is wrapped tightly around the ring. So there's not going to be easy water getting in between the harness and the ring. So how could you toivel that ring? There's a chatzitza on it. Omer Rabami v'sharischa. What does that mean? So it means that you made it bigger. You stamped. You took a hammer. You stamped down the ring, and therefore it expanded. So the ring became bigger. If the ring became bigger and the hole is bigger, now it's going to be a little loose. And if it's a little loose, then there's no more chatzitza, and that's why you could type it. Laomer Rab Ami. So David always loves these terutzim because the Mishnah says stamazoi. You can toivel with it. Toivel means typically the ring that we're talking about. Now the Gemara is saying that you can toivel it in some very weird case, in one unusual weird case, if you happen to have stretched it out, which is a very unlikely situation. Laomer Rab Ami Reb Yosef Svirli. Let's say that Rab Ami holds like Reb Yosef, and he holds that when you expand it, it's good. Yidik Rabbi Yitzchak, the Omar, the boy, min adam l'noi behema, if he's going to learn that the reason why they became tamei is because they were originally tamei, because they became tamei when they were still servicing a human. Kivan the rischon, once you stamped them out, so now you changed the actual physical properties of this ring. It would never be tamei. If you learn that the ring as it is made for a behema, not for a human, but the reason why we say it's tamei is because a human uses it to pull animals. So then we're saying it became tamei in exactly this situation. It was a ring that was designed to be part of a harness. It became tamei, and in order to be able to toivel it, it has to be loose. So if you stab it down, you make it bigger, it'll still be tamei because it's still servicing the same function that it was when it became tamei, yet now you can toivel it. But if you're telling me that this tuma could never have occurred when it was a ring servicing an animal, because a ring servicing an animal is not makabel tuma. Rather, this ring had a life before its life in the animal harness. And there used to be the ring that belonged to a person. Well, once you make a maisa to change the form of that ring by stamping it out, so now it would have lost its shem as a ring that it was before, and now it became part of a harness. That in and of itself, without tefillah, would make it that there's no tumah, because this is no longer the object that became tumah. So from the fact that Reb Ami had to say that you modified the ring, it must be that he holds that this ring became tamei while it was servicing the animal, and it's not an old tumah that's followed. It's not a legacy tumah that's from when it was servicing the adam, because then the rishon would automatically eliminate the tumah.
Yosy Simon.
Yes.
Just so you can imagine the practicality behind it, a ring that was used that is used for an animal may have been used as a bracelet for a human.
Why? Because I mean, they for sure wouldn't use a ring that's so small even to put a harness through.
Exactly.
The reason why I was thinking that it was a ring is because that makes the Gemara's kasha make more sense. The ritzul must be so tight that it'll be a chatzitza. But if it's a bracelet, then maybe a ritzul can go through it and it wouldn't be so tight.
I know that the ring that goes through the nose of a cow is the size of a bracelet, right? So that's how you can start using one for the other. I remember there was once, just by the way, there was once a vort from the Rebbe. He once asked, how could it be that the Yidden took out the clothing
I just want to tell Akiva the Rebbe means the Satmar Rebbe.
Oh, the Satmarov once asked how it could be that the Yidden went out from Mitzrayim. The Torah says that it used their that they took out the Malbushim, the clothing from the Mitzrayim. How could it be that the immodest clothing that the Mitzrayim wore would be useful for the women from the Eden? And he said that the mini skirts that the Goyim wore, that the Mitzrayim wore, were used by the children of the Eden. That's how he answered that.
Okay, very good, very good. Today's sponsor, we have to be masculine. Today's sponsor is, I believe, Shlomo Goldreich, right? Nishmas is his father and his mother, right? So today's also the yahrzeit of Reb Shaila Kiristir, the famous Reb Shaila. And they say over a famous story of Shaila, his whole mission in life was to feed Eden, to help Eden. And the story goes is that by the break before Tkiyah Shofar, most Rebbes are learning, and they're learning the Zohar and learning the Tikkunim and all the Machshavos that you're supposed to have during Tkiyah Shofar. The Shaila Kiristir used to do during Tkiyah Shofar, he would cut up the cake for the Kiddush, so the Olim will have to have food right away. And he used to say, all the Rebbes, what are their kavunas when they're preparing for Tkiyah Shofar? It's the Ruzin, the secrets, the greatest secrets, the Ruzin. And what I'm thinking about is L'soiva v'loy Ruzin. I'm thinking about how I can feed Olim. And when he, by his oifruf, he was a mishamish by the least karov. And he was like the hosbucher there. And when he got engaged, and by his oifruf, Rab Matchalim in Varna, who was a very big influence in his life, he spoke by the oifruf. And he said, to do asach Rebbes in the Welt. To do, and he quoted from Yukim Perkim, Rav Revayet to the Große Rebbes, is a Raye in Kleine Rebbes, Tafle, Kinderlach, Gul Kleine Rebbes. In Shaya is auch a Rebbe. So it was a play on words. And that was really what heralded Reb Shaila Kiristir's becoming a Rebbe. And Reb Shaila Kiristir, it's very incredible. One of the reasons why everyone runs to him is because besides that, he's known to get rid of mice, which people are very excited about. But he was a mashpia of a lot of parnasa. Everyone says, you go to Reb Shaila, you become rich. I will tell you, most of the people that I saw when I was there 2 years ago were not rich, and they're still not rich. But whatever the case is, you actually lose money there because 50% of the people there are mishalachim. So I asked him, I don't understand. If you're collecting money, how did you afford your ticket? It's expensive to get here. He said it was an investment. It was a business expense. Hopefully it'll pay off. So anyway, Reb Shaila was a big mashpia parnasa, and the Tosher Rebbe wrote about him that how was he zoicha that there was never a time when in the household of Kiristir there was always such a shefa. They always had so much to feed Orchim. They always were able to be mashpia parnasa. It came from his hakpada and kedushas abris, and that's the yisoid of hatzlacha parnasa. That's what the Tosher Rebbe said about. So let's see what the Gemara says weiter. Now we learned that when you have a keli that you change it changes over, and it's no longer the same keli that it started from. When it became tameh, its tumah evaporates. Titnan kol hakelim yordan l'deitim osam b'machshava. All kelim, if you, and Rashi gives the example of a rug. If you have a hide that you were going to make into shoes or could it be used for anything. So right now, as a hide, it's not a keli. And then I had in mind, you know what? I'm going to use it as a rug. Your mind alone, your kavan alone, gives it a status of a keli, and then now it will be makabel tumah. Now, what happens if I change my mind and I say now I actually want to cut this rug up and I want to use it to make shoes out of, make straps out of? So the fact that I now made up in my mind that I'm going to cut up this rug and I'm going to make it into shoes, that doesn't take away its status of a rug, and it doesn't take away its tumah. Until I actually take a knife and start carving and start cutting that leather, it retains its status as a rug. Same thing over here. This was a ring that was used as a purse for a person. in order to change its status to that of a ring to use for a harness and thereby get rid of the original tumah, just having decided to use it or even using it won't change it. You actually have to modify the actual physical properties of the keli, like by stamping it. Just like on the rug, you'd have to actually start cutting the straps out of the rug. That's changing it physically. So to here, the risk on the smashing it down and expanding it is what would take away its status of a tachshit of an adam and thereby be mafriach to tumah. Zok more Rabbi Yehuda. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So one second. So the Gemara is kasha. This is a kasha. The Gemara says if the tumah goes away, I don't need tefillah. So why over here would I need tefillah? In order to say that the tefillah would work, you have to say I stamped it out so that it should be looser, so that there shouldn't be chatzitza. Well, now we got rid of the problem of chatzitza, you got rid of the whole tumah. And if you got rid of the whole tumah, why do I need to tefillah? So tomorrow, Shavuot Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Maisa l'sakein la Maisahu. Whenever you do a Maisa in a keli that improves it, that will not take away the tumah. The Tanya Rabbi Yosy Simon, the only time changing something physically makes it lose its status of a keli, that's only if it ruins the keli. But if it's actually improving it, in this case, you're improving it because you need to modify it for use as the harness for the animal, that would not take away the tumah. But Mishnah Tani, in the Brisa we learned that the reason why there's no problem of chatzitza here is what Rashi is. So this might be what time tzvi is timing. The Mishnah says that we didn't use a small ring that needed to be expanded so it should be chatzitza. Maybe we used a bracelet. We used an animal we used a ring that even in its previous life, when it serviced the human, it was bigger, and therefore there wouldn't be a problem of chatzitza. So just to summarize what we learned until now is that we in order to have something that would be bekabel tumah, it has to service a human, and it became tumah either while it was being used as a ring for a human or as a bracelet for a human, or you can hold that since the ring on the harness is made for a human to pull an animal with, that also gives it a status of a keli. It's not a chatzitza either because it was a big bracelet or it was stamped open, and it doesn't lose its shem tumah because Maisa has to be a Maisa Lakalka in order to destroy its status of tumah. Shol Talmud Echad miGalil HaElyon es Rabbi Laomer. A Talmud from Galil HaElyon, from the Upper Galilee, from Tzas area, asked Rabbi Laomer the following shayla. Shemati, I heard Shecholkin bein tabas l'tabas. I heard that there's the chiluk in halacha between different types of rings. That's all I know. I know that there's different types of rings and they have different halachas, but I have no idea. Exactly what the differences are and what it's relevant to. Amar Lai, so Rabbi Laomer told him, Shema lo shamata elo l'yin Shabbos. If you heard that there's a difference in halacha between different rings, that would only be relevant l'gabe hilchos Shabbos. If you heard that there's a difference in halacha between different types of rings regarding hilchos tumah, david achasi, they would both l'gabe tumah, they all have the same halacha. So Rashi tells us, what does it mean l'yin Shabbos? The halacha is a ring. We're going to soon see a ring that has a chosim on it would be also to carry. And if it doesn't have chosim, it would be mutter to carry, I believe. But lagabe tumah, they're all going to be tumah. In fact, Gemara in tumah david achasi. But now we learned tabas adam tmeya, the tabas beim v'kelim, the shakal tabas tahirish, like we learned. So how could you tell me there's no difference between rings lagabe hilchos tumah? There's a very big difference between different types of rings. So the Gemara Kika Amar Iu Nami the Adam Kamalei. The rings that this Talmud heard about were only rings that humans wear, and in rings that humans wear, there was no differences between different rings. Uda Adam David Achasi. Are you telling me that even the rings that humans wear, they're all tamei, and there's no cases where there's not tamei? But Tani we learned Tabash Eskina Lacher B'Masnov. He created a loop that he was going to use as a belt buckle, or lakasher b'bank seifov, or to tie up his sleeves. Tahira, that's tar. The only type of ring that's used by a human is a ring that goes on your finger. So you see, even Lagabi Toma, there's a difference between rings. He meant, I heard halachas about rings on their fingers, and that there's a different halacha between finger rings. So on that, Rabbi Yosy said, finger rings, by Lagabi Hilchos Toma, there's no chiluk, they're all going to be tummy. Lagabi Shabbos, there might be. Dr. Gemara, even for a finger, are you going to say that every ring that goes in a finger will be Mekabel Toma? If the ring is made out of metal, and its its signature part, is made out of wood, it's going to be Tama. But he shall almoid. If the ring is made out of almoid, the chosh shall machis, and its signature part is made out of metal, Torah, it will be Torah. So you see, weiter, even rings that you wear on your finger, there's a chiluk in different types of rings, whether it's Tomei or Torah. So he meant rings that are fully made out of metal. There's no difference in such rings, Lagabe Hilchas Toma, but there is Lagabe Hilchas Shabbos, depending on if it has a chosh or not. For Oisho, another thing that the Talmud mentioned, Shemati, I heard, Shecholkin bin Machat Lamach. I heard there's different halachas between different types of needles, but I don't know any other information about it. Rabbi Yosy told him, you probably only heard that there's a difference between different types of nails, Lagabe Hilchas Shabbos. However, the Ilinian Toma, but Lagabe Toma Davada Achasi. All needles will have exactly the same halacha, they'll all be Toma. But the Gemara, will the Ilinian Toma Davada Achasi? Are you going to say that Ilinian Toma, all needles are tamei? But now we learned machat shenitol chura, a needle that the hole where you put the thread through broke off, or ukza, or its point, Torah, that needle is Torah. So you see, there's a big chiluk. Some needles are going to be tamei, and some needles are going to be Torah. The Talmud said, I heard halachos lagabi a complete needle. We're not talking about broken needles. Are you telling me all complete needles are also going to be tamei? I'll show you there's a difference. But none machat shehelsa chaluda, a needle that became rusty, in the rust sticks out. It takes away from the smoothness of the needle. So if you try sewing with it and the rust gets caught on the fabric and you can't sew it properly, then tahira, that loses its status of a needle and it's going to be Torah. So you see, even complete needles, not all of them are tamei. The Machtamei. Ramid Berabianai, Vahu, Sher Rishuma Nicker. Now, Pshad and Rishuma Nicker, Rashi says, either the second Pshad of Rashi is, it's only going to be tar if there's enough rust that you could actually tell. That's one Pshad. The other Pshad is, Vahu Rishuma Shal Machat Nicker, the Hukli. You have to, so either it's telling you it's only Tamei if you could tell that it's a needle. In other words, it's not so rusty that you can't even tell it's a needle anymore. If there's so much rust on it, till you clean it off, you don't even know what's under the rust. So either it's only a tamei if you could tell it's a needle, or it's only tar if there's enough rust that it actually gets stuck in the cave. So, but nevertheless, you still see even in complete needles there's a chiluk. So he's talking about polished needles. In polished needles, all polished needles are tamei. There are no polished needles that have a difference in the halacha l'gabe tumah. A needle, whether it has a hole in it to put a thread in or not, it would be mutter on Shabbos, so it would not be muksa, because you can use it, even though you can't use it to sew, Rashi says, you can use just a pointed needle as a pin to take out a splitter, so it's a keli, so it's not muksa. But lo yamrina on the kuba ela le'inyan tovah. We only say there's a chiluk that a needle without a hole in it will not be Makabel Tumah, and a needle with a hole in it will be Makabel Tumah. So you see, even in a nice polished needle, there's a chiluk la'alocha in Hilchos Tumah if it has a hole or not. What we're talking about is a needle that has not yet been finished its manufacturing process. We know what are we planning to make? This needle is going to be a needle that's not a pin. It's going to be a needle. It's going to have a hole in it. You're going to be able to put thread through it. But we haven't yet finished making it. That's what this last brisa that we're quoting is. So where do you say that Lagabi Hills Toma makes a difference? There's a hole in the needle. That's if you're planning to make a needle with a hole, because you're making a sewing needle, and you didn't make the hole yet. So now this needle is incomplete. An incomplete needle, taka will not be makabel tuma. But the needle that the Talmud was talking about was a completed needle, and the completed needle that's designed not to have a hole in it to be used as a pin, avada, no matter what, that would be makabel tuma. Okay, I guess we could stop here.
Shkoyach.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Have a very, very good day.
I wanted to say that Aaron Levine started waking up yesterday.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. That's excellent news.
There was a thing I text. I don't know why I can't turn on my video for some reason. Anyways, but there was a WhatsApp that came up about around 10 o'clock last night that he started waking up. So I don't know what that means, but it means better than it was when he started off in the morning.
Baruch Hashem. Did they put in the spoke yet? The trach?
No, that's doing that today. That the trach, right?
Because the trach allows him to be slowly weaned off his ventilator.
Right. So they're doing that today. I think he still has pneumonia, and he had some fever over Shabbos. I guess that's the only thing that they're, I don't know, the only thing that they're watching on.
That's good news.
I heard also Grunfeld started making big improvements. Also, Rabbi Grunfeld.
Really?
The guy who lives next door to the Agudah.
Oh, Baruch Hashem, excellent.
He's also getting better.
Wow. That's good news. Is Rabbi Levine in intensive care or is out of intensive care?
Oh yeah. No, first he was in COVID intensive care. Then last week he tested negative for COVID, so they put him into regular intensive care.
He's still in intensive care. So hopefully once they start.
How could he not be in it? How could he not be in intensive care? He was out cold. I mean, he's been like sedated. Like he hasn't been up for 5 weeks. He's been sleeping for 5 weeks.
I read an article.
Yeah, I can't imagine someone's been sleeping for 5 weeks but wouldn't be in intensive care.
Yeah, I hear it makes sense. You're right. Eli Beer, when he woke up, he was like put out for I think he was put out for like almost a month. From Purim till after Pesach, he was kept unconscious. And as soon as he woke up, he told his wife, "Please arrange me a flight. I want to come home for Pesach." Not realizing that you can't get flights, and not realizing that Pesach was over already. And when he found out, and Mamish hit him very hard.
He might be home for Pesach Sheni.
He's home already.
He's home, yeah.
Yeah, a very wealthy guy donated an airplane, and they flew him back on a private plane.
Yeah, well, he does so much for them there.
And he thought he would never see his kids again. He was so afraid. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay, we should give serious titles. Have a hatzlacha dekadei.
Amen.
So Mechi, what's happening with the schools? Any updates? Because I heard on the radio yesterday that in Ontario they're planning to open up certain venues by the end of May. I'm not sure which venues they were talking about.
I don't know. I didn't hear about it, but I'll find out. I not hear. I mean, only thing I heard is that it was plans that if it opens up, they're still gonna we have to figure out classes, smaller classes, and social distancing. Which I don't know how that's gonna happen from schools. I mean, that's as it is already at our limits.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that like this at this stage of the game, they're open school for 3 weeks.
I was thinking for the yeshivas.
High School. The Zakir High School has already laid off all. I asked the executive director, I forgot his name, the new guy, took over from Zucker. I asked him. He told me that they've already laid off most if not all the secretaries. Meaning they're all getting UI and the school saving money.
Right.
Got a lot of money.
Wow.
I can't imagine they'll bring them back for 3 weeks. Anyways,
I was thinking that what they're probably going to end up doing in yeshivas, these boys, I don't think after meeting isolation for so long they can go sit and learn.
Now I called in on the phone.
I think what they're probably going to do is probably make Ben Ismanim first, and they'll have an extended L. They'll start L.
I called in. There's a number you can dial by phone.
Yeah, I know my son started yesterday learning. He started learning yesterday.
Okay.
And yeah,
So,
I mean, it's
You want to bring your
he has
phone
like a
here,
Bluetooth and
and
everything.
we'll
It's not so
set
easy
it
holding the
up,
phone
we'll
all day.
slide it to the car.
Uh-huh.
It's up to you.
And
That's
then
why
especially,
shut
they
the-
kind
you
of
wanna shut
internet,
the
right? So they
YouTube?
can't see each other either. It's not so
Yossi.
easy to live, 6, 7.
You want to
Yes.
shut
No, just
YouTube?
we'll practice it.
What?
You
I
wanna
shut it
shut
off.
the YouTube?
I shut it off already.
It still says live on YouTube.
Oh, I'm not sure that's. I shut off the recording.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sure.
Oh, stop live stream.